everybody.
Welcome to the
Welcome
dip, guys.
back to
Hey.
the dip. So we have two familiar faces and a new face. Would you like to
Hello.
introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ray. You saw me like 2 episodes ago be like, "Hi, we're in OSBS." But yeah, I'm Ray.
Yeah, I'm Edgar,
And I'm Angelica.
and today we're talking about religious trauma.
Ooh. Okay, well, to kick it off, yeah, that was, if you want to go with your question.
Oh
Ray.
yeah. Well, I think just a good way to start it off would just be like going down the line saying like what religion denomination we are,
Mhm.
and then just like what it was like growing up there.
Yeah.
So I can go ahead and start just because I brought it up. So I'm a Lutheran, which is a denomination of Christianity. Um, I've been like that ever since I was born. I was like baptized, I think before I was even one.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
real quick, they were like, "This baby popped out."
Boom.
Dumb.
Wait, is that how they baptize?
Not the dumb.
no.
Okay,
No,
because
they're
there
the
are
chill
some,
ones.
Yeah, there
there
are
are some
churches-
religions where they go boom,
Yeah.
boom.
It's like
And
that
I'm
one
like-
guy
I'm
that's
like-
like the "Where's the money,
Yeah,
Lebowski?"
boom, boom. Yeah,
No,
that
they
sounds
just did the
it's
little like
Not the babies.
no, they just did the little like cup the hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see.
Okay.
But yeah, grew up there, was at Sunday school like pretty much every week for like ever. Did VBS and stuff.
What's that?
Oh my god, I did that
Oh,
too.
Vacation
Oh
Bible
my
Vacation
God,
School.
Bible
yes,
School?
I did that
Yes.
too. I
That's what we
forgot
just
about
called it.
that.
Aw.
And then
Those
I
are
grew
always
up too
fun.
much, and then I was one of the leaders and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, those were kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
If I recall, some of them were really fun, especially when you were a kid because
Mhm.
you just did like arts and crafts and you
Yeah.
colored like a picture of Jesus. and
I
stuff.
also would say, like, even as a teen, low-key, it was kind of fun because, you know,
Yeah.
like, it was just a time to hang out with your
Yeah,
friends again
You
at
got
the
to
same
like
time.
hang out,
Yeah,
eat snacks, and just
exactly.
like chill,
Yeah.
and not have to. You didn't have to do the arts and crafts, but if
Yeah.
you wanted to, you could.
Yeah,
so-
exactly.
It's there. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so-
But anyways, I was also an acolyte, one of the kids who like lit the candles. I remember because like the first church that I was at, because like we went to one church and then we moved, so we went to another one. But yeah, I was like one of the only kids who would do it.
Mm.
So I would have to like light 6 or 7 candles by myself, and me being the little short guy that I was always like, and it would be like the end of the song, like people would like just be standing and waiting, and I would just be like, last one, right here.
I was like,
Yeah.
no, take your time.
But then, you know, growing up, went a little bit less to church, but I still kept up with it. Still did Sunday school stuff. Eventually, started doing like sound work for the church that I went to before coming here, which was nice. So,
Yeah.
just helping out. But my family made sure we were very involved because my family was very involved with it. So they were like, "You're doing this stuff." Like I was acolyting still. Sound. I was in the handbell choir, which like
Okay.
I've never played instruments before other than like recorder in elementary school.
Yeah.
So I was just like ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess the only other major thing religion wise that happened was I got confirmed, which was most of where my religious trauma comes from. Because like I don't know if y'all had to get confirmed.
Yeah.
or, like,
I didn't.
I did.
I
Okay.
didn't.
I did all
Yeah.
3.
But I know what it is.
Yeah, but like it was like 2 years of basically just school in order to, you know, take the Lord's Supper and whatnot, which is very, very serious in the Lutheran faith. Like you need to take it weekly is
Mhm.
how they feel about it. So it was stressful, but we made it through, and now we're here. Admittedly, I don't go to church that often. I still do take the Lord's Supper weekly. That is something I am able to do because the church I go to now has like little portable ones.
Oh.
And so my family mails them to me every so often. So I get like
Nice.
little packs and I'm just like,
Yeah. Amen.
yeah, thank you, Lord. And then I like throw it away. Kobe.
So is that Kobe?
But yeah, that's pretty much everything.
Okay.
I'm a Catholic.
Ooh.
Born and raised still a Catholic. I basically same. I was baptized before I was 1, or might have been 1 somewhere around there. And then I think when I was like 12 or 11 or somewhere around there, I did my first communion, and then I was, I think, 18 and then I got confirmed. And yeah, I did the same thing. I did vacation Bible study. I was an altar boy. I yeah, it was like I had what is it? I think it's catecismo in Spanish, but I think catechism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yes.
was a big part of like confirmation for me
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Studying
Going
that
to
stuff.
those. Yeah. So I went to those every week. Um, and then yeah, just very involved. The same like every week we went to church, and then we always went to like all the events that they held, whether like for like how do you say Via Crucis in English? Oh no, Via Crucis. Insert what it is here. We went to those. We went to the posadas. We went to all of those things. I will say, like, obviously, there's a lot of negative stuff in the Catholic. I almost said industry, but in the Catholic religion
Industry. In this
industry.
industry.
But it was also
Business.
very fun. I have some very like fun memories from it. So
Mm.
yeah, and I'm not as active in Catholicism, but I still, when I get the chance, I still go to church and I still, you know, every morning I wake up and I pray to the Lord, and every night I pray to the Lord. But yeah, yeah. What about you, Angelica?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I also like was like born into the church, like
Mhm.
there wasn't a day when I was growing up younger that we didn't go to church, but I grew up in the Church of Nazarene. I'm not
Ooh.
gonna lie,
Okay.
don't really know what that is. I just like know because like it was like it's this little church in Plainview is where I grew
Mhm.
up at, and like my grandma was the Sunday school teacher, my
Yeah,
uncle was the pastor, like each of my tias like did something, and
yeah,
like all this stuff. So I don't really know what.
yeah.
It's
We can
so
google
weird
it
for
now.
me.
I can
Yeah,
also
yeah,
look it
Google
up.
it. Yeah,
But
it's in
yeah,
Plainview.
I was like, I have family
And
in
there's a
Plainview.
lot of Nazarene churches. I
Yeah,
just don't know.
like know
Because
what.
like they didn't take baptism like we didn't have like baptism
Hmm.
services. Like nobody really got baptized.
Oh,
I don't
that's
I mean like we
crazy.
did, but
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
was the thing that somebody else put on and we just like
yeah,
went to do that.
yeah.
So
That's cool.
I don't know. But I grew up like in that church like until I was like maybe like 6
Yeah.
probably. Um until then, because then my mom and like my mom and my brother like we moved away,
Hmm.
and we didn't really go to church often between like the years of like 6 and like until 5th grade. Like we did go to church, but it was like here and then, and it wasn't really as continuous
Yeah, yeah,
until I got to 5th grade, and then we had like moved to another place, and then we were like, we're gonna go to church,
yeah.
we're gonna do all this stuff, whatever. And so then from being Nazarene, I kind of switched to non-denominational
Okay.
because it was more of like we were interested in like the more modern way of like religious
Yeah,
practices.
yeah,
And
yeah.
non-denominational churches really are just like they just preach what's in the Bible without any like restrictions or anything like that.
Hmm.
Not saying that all the other ones do, but
Yeah,
like we don't have to do like
yeah,
confirmation
yeah, yeah.
or like, and baptism was just something that was optional, like it,
Hmm.
whatever, and all that
Mm.
stuff. And so from like my middle school years, I was heavily
Yeah,
like involved in that shit. Like I would go to youth groups and I would
yeah.
go to the camps. I did VBS. I did a whole bunch of shit. And then when I got into high school, I started like volunteering, like teaching the classes for the kids and like
Hmm.
doing all this shit. So I was very heavily
Yeah.
involved. And it wasn't until like COVID is
Hmm.
when I was like, "Mm,
Mm.
this is not it."
Yeah.
Because after COVID, the first service that I went back to church, they were talking about like LGBTQ,
Yeah. Oh.
and
Mm.
and they were
Yeah.
like
Oh.
they were like, love is love is a lie. People just made that up. It was never what God said. And I said, yeah, I'm not going to church anymore.
You like flip up your nose here and you're like,
And I said,
sorry
Well,
"Ugh."
guys.
I said, goodbye.
wait.
So that was just kind of like
That's
the
fine.
end
Yeah.
of, not saying that I still don't believe, because obviously I grew up with that. That's
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
something that's just gonna go away.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, I kind of like believe in everything now. I
Hmm.
don't really
Mhm.
stay in the practice of that, but
Yeah.
I just kind
Mhm.
of like,
Yeah.
if you say that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
that's my little story.
Yeah.
Also looked it up. Church of the Nazarene Methodist.
Oh, okay,
Oh!
that's different. Okay,
Yeah, that's
fun.
nice.
That's
That's
cool. We have a
nice.
lot of different perspectives, which is funny because up until like high school, I thought that every like Mexican household, like Latino household, were all
We're all
Catholics.
Catholic?
Yeah.
Yes, because everyone like where we're from Mexico, like Jalisco, everyone is Catholic
Yeah.
there. So I was like, yeah, yeah. Oh no, Taylor's calling me. It might have ended the thing.
Oh,
Taylor.
no, we're good.
Oh,
We're
okay.
recording.
Oh.
Say less.
Brr.
Sorry,
Bye, Taylor.
Taylor, if you're watching, I'll call you later. Kiss, kiss.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, I was under the impression that like everybody was Catholic, and then I was like, oh. Should we tell them?
Yeah.
Hey, you guys. So we're recording without recording. So
I think we got like 20 minutes without like recording.
yeah. We talked for a while, so we're gonna go back and hope we answer everything.
Yeah. Wait, will you make sure your mic on? Because mine was off. Oh, okay.
Wait,
Yeah.
I hope this means on.
I think it does.
It just means that like maybe it's low in battery.
Maybe.
Okay, we should be good.
I
I'll
don't
turn it this way
Yours
so we
on?
can constantly.
Mine's on.
Okay.
Oh
we're
yeah.
good,
Okay.
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 So we just discussed like,
Yeah.
oh, all three of us are different religions.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
I
Yeah.
said that I growing up always thought that all Mexicans were Catholics, and that's not true.
Yeah, also
So-
white people can be Catholic too.
I know that's another thing that like I know that's maybe common sense to everybody, but I was like they're not, and then I would go. But also, I would go to English mass, and the difference between English mass and like Hispanic mass is so
Yeah.
funny. Specifically in the music, like with English, it's an organ and it's very like ooh, but with Mexican, we're like fucking clapping, we're like fucking getting
Y'all
into
get
it.
into
I
it.
Yes,
I
and
do
I would
remember
dance, and my
going
mom would be
to
like,
Spanish
"We're in
mass.
church, you're not supposed." And I'm like, "And why are you like, ooh, this
Just
song
like,
is
why is
I'm like, this song is hitting. It's not my fault. I'm feeling God through me right now." But, yeah.
That's funny.
You know what else I just realized since
What?
it cut off? I like got all of like the questions answered. Like, what do you mean you like took communion at 12 and then got confirmed at like 18? But now I know the answer.
Oh,
so I
yeah.
feel like I can ask the
Okay,
question
wait.
again.
Yeah. No, ask it again.
You can ask it
Oh.
again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like
We have a
brain
BFA in
reset.
acting. We could do it. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Let's
have-
put our BFAs to use.
Yeah.
Wait, so okay, because you said like you took communion at like 12 and then you
Yeah.
got confirmed at 18.
Yeah.
So did you just like take communion whenever you felt ready, or was it like?
So it was like, okay, so you had to do your first communion before you could take the body of Christ and his blood. And so like what you would do, I think it was like when you turn like 5 or 6 or whatever, you start going to like Sunday school and like catechism, and you're learning and you're getting prepared to do your first communion, and then you would go on a retreat. No, just kidding. The retreat was for your confirmation, there we go. But for your first communion, that was the very first time that you would take the body of Christ, but you couldn't take it unless you did your first communion. And so most of us were like around like, again, 10, 11, 12, 13, I don't remember the age, somewhere around there. But there were also people that were a little older just because their parents didn't put them in the classes to do your first communion. And I think you need 2 years, because you also said something about 2 years. So
Yeah.
you need 2 years and then you would do your first communion. And so, yeah.
Oh.
And then after that, you would need another 2 years, I think, and then you could do your confirmation. And so with that, it's like you're learning more about it, more in depth, and then you would go on a retreat. I think it was like a weekend retreat, and then you would come back and you would do your confirmation. And yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting, because like my thing was like the confirmation process for me was the thing that allowed us to take
Mhm.
communion. So I was like,
And how old were you when you did that?
I think it was middle school, junior high, so probably like 13, 14.
Yeah, that's when I did. So
So-
that's crazy. So y'all's
yeah.
confirmation is our first
Yeah,
communion.
because it was basically like 2 years of just full on studying.
Yeah.
Like the Bible,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
for, I don't know if y'all had this, but did y'all have like a Luther's small catechism?
What?
The small catechism?
What is?
It's this book, because Lutheranism is majorly based off of Martin Luther's 95 Theses,
Mm-hmm.
because Martin Luther like changed how the church was run and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So he made a book basically going over things like the the Lord's Prayer, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, and basically just going like sentence by sentence and saying like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
So we would have to like study like what every single line of the Lord's Prayer was and what it actually meant.
Oh.
So that was part of like the entire learning process.
Yeah.
Because like for Lutherans, it's like you do not take communion. You do not eat the Lord's body and drink his blood unless you know what you're thinking, what the Bible is about, and what Jesus is about. So
that's crazy.
that was a big
I don't think
part.
we ever went into like that because we learned about like like the Old Testament, the New Testament. But I don't think we ever went into that much of that.
No, the Lutheran faith is very dead set on like the Bible is the law, the Bible is the gospel, and you need to follow this stuff to 18.
Yeah.
They would kill the people at my church. Just kidding.
And us.
Jokes.
Church of the
Jokes. Because we just took it whenever we felt ready. Honestly.
Yeah.
And my mom, she was like, "You only take it whenever you know." But I mean, it was there as an option if you wanted.
That's fair.
That's crazy.
So my next question was, if you feel comfortable talking, like your religious trauma, not trying to ask for your trauma, but like.
Let me trauma dump real quick.
But like kind of how being religious kind of affected you in a negative way.
Would you like to go first?
Oh, I can go first if you'd like.
Yeah.
That's how it was last time. I think you also said, let me trauma dump right quick, like to the camera.
I did. That was
that's
me putting
first
my
time?
BFA into acting.
That's what I'm saying.
We were trying to do one-to-one replica. This
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here,
yeah.
right now.
Oh my god, my mic is dead.
Anyways,
Yeah.
trauma dumping.
Trauma dumping! Okay, so like I said earlier, whenever after COVID had happened, my first service that I went back to, and it was actually with my family, and then I'm thinking about it too. It was with my family, and they were talking about, basically the whole sermon was about terms that us people like now have like created and made up, but they're not following God's word. Like, and then he used like the term "love is love." That is not true. That is not what God like created. That is not what God meant by his words. It is not real, basically. And I was just like, because COVID was a time that I was figuring out my sexuality, and it like took like a big toll on me. And so then going to hear that, my first sermon back like was like something that I was like,
I don't think I'm coming back.
I don't think I'm gonna come back. I was like, and that was also a non-denominational church, which is more lenient and like has like less, what am I trying to say, not as strict as the other churches. So like I'm like, if you have these people here saying that, what are the other ones gonna say? No. And so I was like, and then also like it also played into my family really, because my family was involved, we were all involved. It was something that we all grew up going to. And so, anytime that me or my brother would like get in trouble or we would like do something bad, my mom would always use the Bible as like her tool to like shape us into better behavior. So then it kind of also just like made us like fear God instead of being like, oh, he loves us, like he's just there to care for us. So anytime I did something, I know we were talking about this, anytime you did something and you were scared, subconsciously in the back of your head you're like, oh my God, God's gonna hate me.
He's gonna hate me, he doesn't love me, we're going down.
Yeah, exactly. So like those are kind of the things that like that really like affected me, and that's why I always refer to religious trauma as that, because it's something that I'm like, I don't think any child should go through that. Like that is not good.
That's something like, before I get into it, like I don't like how like close-minded they make God seem. I'm like, you're gonna tell me that you believe that he created the entire universe, but that he is upset about someone loving someone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, like he's like the whole thing is he's omnipotent, he's all knowing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he's like stuck in one way.
Exactly.
God can change.
Gosh. Literally.
On God.
On God. God can change. Like, I'll say this, like, that's something that, like, like, me and, like, very few of my cousins were very, like, we're the black sheep of the family, but like we'll like speak out and we'll say things like this where we're like, why are you guys making him so small-minded? And people, they like, our family just doesn't get it. I'm like, you're gonna like, I don't know why you're making him seem one way. I'm like, he's like this like being, and you're like all this other stuff, and I'm like, why you think he's gonna be upset about someone else? But then the other thing is like, so with Catholics, let's say like someone's on their deathbed and they did all these fucking crimes, you know? If a priest comes and absolves you of their sins, basically you're still going to heaven. And I'm like, what? So this bitch can be like all these negative things and still go to heaven, but like someone loves someone else of the same gender and they're not? Like, how does, you know, that doesn't make sense in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm trying to think back what I said to the, so it was, we touched on this a little bit, but like it's like growing up always knowing that like he was always watching you 24/7, and like every little thing you did, like I was like, oh God, I just did that, I'm going to hell, like he doesn't love me anymore. Or like I would also think I would think like if I did something or like if I thought something like negative, or if I was like, I'm trying to think like of a specific example, like
even if you thought it.
Yes. I was like, okay, specific, like, you know how where I was like, I'm gonna kill myself or whatever, like as a joking way. Well, when I first started saying that, I'm like, oh my God, what if
God, I didn't mean it.
God, I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm like, he knows your thoughts.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm like,
so like if I would think anything that was slightly, and I'm like, I was kidding, please don't do anything, please don't do anything. Like I was just joking. I was just kidding. Yeah. Or like, I'm trying to think of like a specific example. I don't know, just like for everything, I'm like, thoughts and he knows them, and I'm going to hell.
And it's also interesting, and because I think you said it when you started going into your religious trauma, you brought up the word fear, which is crazy, because like in the small catechism, whenever I did confirmation, again, I'm bringing that up because that's where most of my religious trauma comes from, but like in the small catechism, there's like the explanation for every single like sentence of every sort of like creed or prayer sort of thing. Yeah. The first line of every single one of those is, we should fear and love God so that. Yeah. And like it took me and almost like every other kid who did that confirmation class like forever to wrap our head around what the word fear meant, because our pastor described it. It's not fear as in like, oh, you should be afraid. It's fear in the sense of like respect. Yeah. Where it's like, if you don't obey this, like you should watch your back. Yeah. Like, you know, because they're trying to say like we should fear God as in like we should understand how powerful he is and respect him in all of his ways. But how you the irony of the word and the irony of the word fear being used for that was never lost on me, because that is such an intimidating thought.
It really is.
Especially when you're like studying it at a young age. When you're like 10, 12, like 10, 11, 12, 13 or whatever. Like the idea of having somebody looking over you 24/7 and people telling you time and time again, you are supposed to study for 2 years that you should fear God because he is constantly looking down on you.
And he
that's
freaky. And
really
he
bad
like
wordage.
what like happens like up in your life and
stuff
like that. And I'm like, it's actually like completely terrifying if you actually like generally think about it. Like, why would you continue to be involved with something if you're gonna be as scared all the time? So that was another thing that I was thinking about, and I was like, oh, what? That to be that like, girl.
Crazy.
I don't know. I think it's also a really crazy thing to instill into somebody that's like so small, like, especially like when you're young. If you start it when you're young, it's like, because that's when all like the deep rooting stuff happens is when you're young. And so if you had those questions and it had that effect on you when you were so young, imagine how it's going to be whenever you're older and the things that it's going to affect, you know? I don't know.
Crazy.
And then my next question was, how does being religious play into theater at all, whether that be positive or negative?
I think like the first encounter that I can recall was like, because you know they're like, don't say God's name in vain, and so like when I started in theater and it was like, God damn it, and I was like, I can't say that word, like what? That's saying God's name. And then I remember in high school, like that was when I first got introduced to it, and then now I'm like, okay, I have to say it. I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm not being like, I can like now because you get to a certain age where like you start understanding more of like your religion and stuff, because growing up it's very much like you hear things and it's the way that your parents are and stuff like that, but then you grow up and you're like, oh, like that's not, no, and so you start forming your own ideas and stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm not offending him,
Yeah.
I'm just saying
We
words.
kind of like get like a better understanding.
Exactly,
of it
because
yeah. It's not as deep as they instill it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You, Ray, or do you want me to go?
I mean, like obviously there's like church plays and stuff, which I don't really like coincide too hard into theater because, you know, at least for my church and I think for y'all's churches as well, music and artsy stuff was always involved.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's also, music is a great communicator for certain things because everybody loves music. So, I mean, I don't really count those. I was in those, but it's whatever. We all were in the Laramie Project.
Yeah.
Which, awesome play, awesome scripts based off of true events, but also had a lot of like religious aspects within it. Like there's a character named Fred Phelps who has this entire monologue about hating people based off of religious beliefs. That is very intense. Like the night that we took out placeholders because
Oh my god.
yeah,
no,
because Fred Phelps says
God.
the F slur I think like 3 or 4 times within
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 pages worth of script. That took everybody out.
Also,
I remember that day.
Me too. I remember being like, I'm not gonna call that, and I'm not gonna couple it, and then I was going up for Heroes, and I was like, but I can't keep it in anymore.
And I'm so glad you did because
Yeah,
the scene before when I was doing my email stuff, I had like sunglasses on, there was tears.
Yeah,
Rolling
I just
down. I was like, no.
I don't know why, and then I think because it was like so close to it, because I also had to say the F slur, and I've never said it, and I really didn't want to, but like as performers, you know, we have to expand our boundaries, and also like, yeah, it's fine, but I was like, I think getting up to that point, I was like, I need a breather before I have to say it.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm glad we were all on the same page and holding it in. So.
I also think like the Laramie Project kind of like I and I'm not saying I think I know that it expanded a lot of people in our company's like views like
because we had that talk back and a
Yeah.
lot of people were like, I just before coming into it, and they were like,
like for example Victoria, who is one of our council members.
You saw her in last
Victoria!
week's episode.
I remember her speaking about like her experience and how like she thought about it, and Laramie like definitely changed her so much, and like for the best. And I feel like theater can do that to somebody. So I was very thankful for that. Did any of y'all's family come to see that?
My family did, and both my parents, but specifically my father, is very strong in the Lutheran faith. So I was talking about the show to my mom and what it was about and all the parts within it. And she and I both agreed. We were like, your father probably will not see everything eye to eye as we do. And there's a decent chance he may not like it. But like after the show, he was like, that is an awesome play. I think that's one of the greatest things I've seen.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
I loved
nice.
it. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember going home that night, and I mean, I don't cry that often, but I just like sat down and I was like, if I did cry very often, tonight would be a big like my phone would be covered in tears. Because it was just, again, Laramie Project. This is kind of off subject to the religious trauma stuff, but whether you're into theater or not, at least look up what the Laramie Project is about.
Yeah.
It's very awesome stuff. It's very powerful
very
stuff.
life-changing.
Yeah, I will say I will never thank Callie enough for letting me be a part of that, because my god, like just like the close-knit bonding the cast had.
Everybody came out so much stronger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
One of my favorite memories.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways,
back to
back on
It's
to the
okay. I
Yeah.
feel like you kind of played it.
Yeah, because it
it
has a
did.
little bit of both,
Mhm.
like religion and
We tied it
LGBTQ.
in.
Yeah.
podcast stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Um,
theater and religion. I think I
Yeah.
was talking. One thing that I didn't mention when the camera cut. I think the first time I did like a theater show where religion had a say in it was when I did Our Town. I don't know if y'all know Our
I know
Town.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
in that as well.
Yeah, but I was George Gibbs, the main
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And Act 3, spoiler alert, George's wife and like the lead female role dies,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a whole sequence of like George and some of the family going to her grave and like grieving in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we sang a hymn. I forget what hymn it was, but we sang some sort of hymn. And I remember like we were learning it and we had to study it and whatnot. And I was like, and at that point, I'd never really been to a funeral, so I didn't really know what it was like. So it was just interesting to have like that religious aspect, especially on like an event such as a funeral, which has religious aspects like that in it. But doing it in theater, it was like, this feels almost kind of surreal, but it also felt like I was more into it that way.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain it, but it was like doing the hymn and having that religious aspect, it made it feel more real.
Yeah.
Which for a play like Our Town, not a lot really happens. Like our theater director was like, this is a show where nothing really happens. It's mainly just based off of these characters.
Yeah.
But like for a show where nothing happened, we try to make it as real feeling as possible. And that was a big part of helping with it.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
interesting.
So, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like, I think the only thing that we kind of touched on this, like, when you were talking, Ray, but how, like, people that are involved in theater and people who are religious have, like, different views on a lot of things. And so sometimes when they come together, they clash. But that's kind of like why I thought that Laramie was a good show, because it kind of brought everything together and like you could somebody from both views could like get something out of it and understand, have a deeper understanding. I know that my stepdad is always like, oh, you know, don't get sucked into what other people around you are thinking, and I'm like, just shut up.
Hey.
Whatever.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. How does I have a question. How does like being away from your family, like coming to school and being away? I know you're not that far, Edgar, but like still you're mostly away from your family. But like, how does being away from your family and like their religious practices does that affect you at all? Do they say anything about it? I know for a fact that whenever I came to college, my stepdad was like, you know, like, don't let the people change your views, don't let these talk. And then my mom is like, and this is also what she said whenever I was like kind of like, you know, still coming out to her, like barely, you know, whatever. But she was always like, don't lose your faith. The moment that you do, I will have lost you. And I'm like, girl, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
So like, do y'all have like any experiences like with them saying anything like that, making those comments about it?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about it. Go ahead.
Basically the same thing where they're like, don't let other people influence you. Because like, I'll say some things and they're like, they're getting into you. They're getting into you. And I'm like, no, like, I just grew up and did my own, I guess.
I'm living my own life.
Yeah, I'm living my own
the way that I
life.
want to.
And it's also like, you know, like when I get the chance to go to mass, we both go to the same mass, but like, we're viewing at it differently, and it's not like other people are influencing me. It's me being like, well,
this is my take.
This is my takeaway from it and stuff. And like, I really am like 99% of the time here and then 1% at home. But it's like, because I grew up, you know, very religious, and there's like things, not like rituals, but like just little things that we do, like when we wake up, when we go to bed and stuff. Like, I don't get to do this as often, and so like, I'm like, it's almost like, oh, you're a bad Catholic, or like, you could be doing more, and it's like almost guilt. Riddled with guilt that I'm not doing it, because it's just been instilled that like you live for God.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh no, I'm
And so
guilty.
like when you finally kind of choose to do something for yourself,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel
yeah,
guilty
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's yeah, guilt is a great word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's
It came to me and I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's I feel so much guilt
Yeah.
anytime that I do anything, and I'm like,
yeah.
And it's also hard, especially because, like, you know, growing up and whatnot, you know, your parents would take you to church. Your parents
exactly.
would take you to Sunday school.
Mm.
My parents would drive me to confirmation.
Mm.
Part of the religious trauma that I have with confirmation is that the first year of my confirmation process, I couldn't go to the classes because I was doing dance classes then.
Yeah.
And it was at the same time. So my dad had to teach me one-on-one. And so that's
that's a whole other thing.
that's a whole
Your
thing.
dad did that?
Yeah, and I mean he's super devoted, and
Right.
because another, like I think I brought it up before. I don't know if it was cut or not. The Lutheran faith is very strong on like the Bible is the law, the Bible is the gospel. If you understand the Bible, you can understand Lutheranism, and he has a very deep understanding of the Bible.
Yeah.
He like knows Bible verses by heart. He's one of those guys.
Mm.
So I mean, he could definitely do it, but it was also just really difficult to just sit down by ourselves, one-on-one, him right next to me, and we have to study all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, coming here, you don't really get that as much because you would have to pick yourself up on a Sunday morning
Yeah.
at like 8 a.m. and take yourself to a church.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I haven't even gone to the Lutheran church around here.
Yeah.
I fully know where it is. It is right across the street, but I've never stepped foot in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm very lucky to have like the church back home still live streaming their stuff and whatnot. But like for a long time, I didn't even watch it. I didn't do like the communion or anything like that. And the biggest wake up call for me when I was here, it was a very embarrassing moment for me, but it was last year during the week of Ash Wednesday. And I think like you and a bunch of other people went to services and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think we had something that night. I forget exactly what, but I saw people at like the TV lobby in the FXC with the ash crosses.
I think I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember something.
And I completely forgot like the order of like the calendar for religion and like Christianity. I thought Easter was that Sunday.
Oh.
It was a full month after.
Yeah. It's the beginning of the.
Yeah, it's like the beginning of that season.
Yeah.
And like Easter is the end of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, is Easter really this close by? Why haven't I like heard anything about it? And I just thought it was because like the theater department here, people don't really like celebrate Easter that far.
Yeah. It's like that's something that I think is like really cool is that like we all have our own individual like thoughts and beliefs in religion, but we're not enforcing them on other people. And like we respect each other's religions and stuff. So like I think that's really cool because in a lot of other places it's very like, oh, you're not blah blah blah, fuck you, bitch, or like, oh, look, exactly. So that's something cool. Yeah.
And we all like celebrated it because we were trying to make plans for like an Easter festival thing on Easter, but then it just never went through.
Yeah.
But anyways, I texted my family in like a group chat. It was like my parents and my little brother and I think my grandparents as well.
Yeah.
I texted them Happy Easter and I miss you on that Sunday. And they all responded back and were like, it's not Easter.
Oh no.
Oh, right.
And like they were all like joking about it and I was like, I'm so sorry. I saw Ash Wednesday and I thought it was. And then my dad texted me like privately one-on-one and was like, are you not going to church? Are you not keeping up with this stuff? And it was a big thing. And we had a very long talk about it. And, you know, now I keep up with that stuff. Now I'm up to date. I'm taking communion now. But it was just very difficult. And like, again, the Lutheran faith is very strong on like your understanding of the Bible. But I've like coming to college, I was like, I mean, I've learned the Bible. I've been confirmed. I've been studying this for like 18 years of my life. I'm fine. And then I came here and like within the first like 6, 7, 8 months, I forgot when Easter was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt very guilty at that moment, and I was genuinely like nervous when my dad texted me.
Yes.
Like my stomach sank, my heart dropped when it happened.
Yeah, you were like, they're gonna be
Yes.
so
Yeah,
mad.
I thought they were
Exactly.
gonna like disown me or something.
Yeah, it's scary.
So-
But yeah, I will say that like that plays a huge guilt. It plays a huge part in like religion.
That's for sure.
Oh, sometimes I guess people can think of it as positively, but very negatively.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Yeah, because like, you know, I'd be like calling like my grandma or like my mom. I'd be like, yeah, well, oh, you want that to happen? Okay, well, you gotta pray to God. Make sure you keep praying and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll do it, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
But I feel bad because I don't know. I don't know. It's just something like that like is just instilled the whole time that I'm just like, oh.
So like that's something. So where it's like, oh, if you want something, pray for it. I think in for little kids it's good, but also like it instills this thing where it's like, oh, like if you really want something and you pray for it, you're gonna get it.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah, and it puts you in this like these rose-colored glasses. So like growing up, I was always like, oh, I really want blah 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 blah. Let me pray to God, or like, oh my God, I'm sick, blah 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 blah, or whatever. So like, I guess to a certain aspect, yeah, really cool. But also when you grow up, I still have some of those like, some of that mentality where it's like, oh, like I want that, so I'm like, let me pray for it, and if I don't get it, I'm like, hey man. Yeah, so I just remember growing up and being like, I want blah blah blah, and then it wouldn't happen. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah. What's going on? Is there a loose wire in the connection, or So,
and I feel like churches never really explain that well either.
Yeah, I know.
Like they say, like if you ask God for something in prayer, He will always like
exactly,
listen.
And that's.
But they never say like that doesn't mean God's always going to give you what you want.
Exactly.
And this is going to sound weird when I bring it up. I feel like, have y'all ever watched the movie Bruce Almighty?
Yes. Sorry, I love that movie.
I have not.
Okay, so basically it's Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman plays God.
Oh.
And basically
Jim,
like God gives Jim Carrey's character like God's powers for a week, and it's like, if you think you can be God, if you like don't really believe in me and you think you can do it better, you do it. And so there's a part at the end, because part of the entire story is like Bruce constantly hears like prayers in his head, and it's like driving him insane. And so eventually he sets up like an email system for prayers, and then he tries to like answer them, and he goes as fast as he can, but he gets like almost nothing done. So then he just makes it like automatically replies like yes, and it like makes the world go crazy.
Yeah.
So then God, as Morgan Freeman at the end, is like, if I gave everybody everything they wanted prayer wise, the world would be a crazy mess of a place.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't churches explain this?
I know, yeah. Because it's like, yes, as adults we understand, but as a little kids, we hear it and we're like, yeah. Oh my God, I want blah, blah, blah. And then it doesn't happen, and then you start building these like negative emotions towards him where it's like, oh, well, like how come they can get this, but I don't have it, and then, you know, which is, I'm sure, the opposite of what the church wants. But yeah, that's a crazy concept to think about.
Which is also why I think that like religion should be like more influenced at an older age, where you're able to comprehend those type of things rather than being younger and having that intense heavy influence about it and not really fully being capable of understanding that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if this part got cut off or not, but like earlier I said how like, yeah, there's a lot of like trauma and bad things that happened with the Catholic Church and stuff, but there's also sort of like some comfort with like religion, where it's like just having something to like hold on to, if that makes sense. You know, where it's like, oh, like
the idea that there's something after life is a comforting idea.
Yeah. Or if it's like, no matter like what's going on, like you'll always have like someone looking over you. So it's like, that part's a little comforting.
Yeah.
So that's
For
good,
sure.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I was gonna say, so like something that Natalie and I recently talked about is how like Catholics view like sex and how they deal with that. So I was gonna ask you like how y'all's churches went about this because ours is like, don't do it until you're married. If you do it before, you're gonna get an STD, an STI. But if you're married with one person, you're not gonna get an STD or STI. It's STI. Women, you're there to bear children. Men, you're there to provide for your children.
Mhm.
And that was it. There was no other talks about anything. So I was like, how does y'all's
Yeah.
religion deal with that?
Yeah,
So
that
it's
was
like-
it.
Yeah.
That was it. They don't go into much depth.
Yeah,
with
no,
that.
they're like, wait till you're married. If you do it beforehand, you're bad, and you're gonna get an STD. But if you marry before you do it, I mean, if you get married and then you do it, you're fine.
Mhm.
You're good. You won't get an STD, which is not true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would say they didn't go into like some point saying that we would get an STD.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Natalie.
they-
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, you don't do this before marriage or else you're disobeying God.
Yeah.
You're not saving yourself for God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like-
I should probably stop saying her name. Sorry.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
They don't know who it is.
I don't know if this is just me being a bad Lutheran or I didn't listen to the right stuff, but I don't ever remember being told like you can't have sex before marriage.
Really?
That's something
Yeah.
else. Like some religions just like completely glaze over it and they don't
Yeah.
talk about it.
Don't talk about it.
Because again, with the Lutheran Church being so strict on the Bible,
Yeah.
and also like Luther's small catechism, I mean, there's obviously the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
And unless there's some sort of interpretation, explanation thing that I just forgot about, there's nothing that says you can't have sex before marriage. There's stuff about like adultery, coveting,
Yeah.
things like that. But I mean, as long as you don't cross those lines, I don't think the Lutheran Church is gonna hate you if you have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
So
Cool, crazy.
Yeah.
See, and that's what I'm like, does the church get influences from other things? And then they're
Yeah.
like, let's twist this around
mhm,
and
Yeah.
make it to what we want.
Yeah.
right.
Because honestly, like, because I, like, all of America usually are like, have some sort of religion, believe in some sort of
Yeah.
religious aspect. And so, church has like a heavy influence on all of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, once one thing is brought up within the church, you know, everybody's gonna have
Yep.
that
Right.
influence and start believing. So, I mean,
Especially because, like, you know, all of our denominations are still Christianity. There's a bunch of parallelism
Yeah.
between not just Christianity, but just like religion as a whole.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense that they might share some ideas,
Mm-hmm.
even if those ideas may not be
correct.
correct.
Yeah.
Who's for us to say?
Or at certain intensities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some may be like, we won't say you can't have sex before marriage or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Or
Or they'll tell you to get
you
an
will get
STD.
an STD if you
You
have.
will die.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like, isn't it scary how like they'll play with fear and guilt and instill that in you to get their point across? I'm like, we're little kids. What the fuck do you mean? Yeah. God, I remember. Oh my God, so during quarantine, during the pandemic, it was when they were first going back to like in-person mass, and so I went to one of our old churches. We just stopped going there because the priest was just not the best, but I went there because it was the only time that I had available, and it happened to be at that time. And I went there, and it was during the presidential election, and this man didn't. So they do, the reading, the first reading, and then the second reading, and the gospel and whatever, and then they like kind of talk about it and stuff. And this priest didn't talk about it. He was like, as we know, the presidential election is going on. And I was like, okay, first of all, you should not be talking about that right now. And he was like, I know I can't say who you should vote for, but one of them wants babies to be alive and the other one's a baby killer. And I was like, okay. And then he starts talking about the rapture. And I was like, first of all, Catholics don't believe in the rapture. Second of all, there's children in here. You're talking about the rapture? What the fuck? And then I left and I called my mom and I was like, I'm never going to that church again. But I was like, I don't know about all this.
Yeah, sermons and stuff, services, especially in a non-denominational church, because
Yeah.
now it's very more modern.
Mhm.
They take like just regular everyday things and
Yeah.
try to make a sermon out of it.
Okay.
Like, for
yes.
example, like one of like the services would be like the pastor being like, "Oh yeah, so me and my family went out to go see this movie last night. Have y'all seen this movie? It's about blah 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 blah."
It's
blah, blah.
Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, probably it'd
And
be
they
something.
correlate that to fucking God.
It's literally something like that, and I'm like, how are you
Peach
gonna?
Jack Black
is
was
the
singing
Virgin
about
Mary.
peaches, 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 peaches. We should be singing Jesus,
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus,
Jesus.
My
Jesus,
God.
Jesus.
That's funny.
Ew. God.
That's crazy.
No, but it would be
Yeah.
stuff like that, and so I'm like,
Girl.
it's
No, yeah, sometimes I'm like, okay, you're reaching right now with this
Yeah.
analogy or story or whatever you're trying to do. I'm like, where the cuckoo crazy.
Mini tangent, still going with the fear idea. Y'all call it the rapture?
Yeah, so, okay,
'Cause
here's the
I've
thing.
heard the
we
rapture.
we Catholics, I'm pretty sure, unless it's, because me and the person that I was talking about earlier, I was telling them about this and they're like, Catholics don't even believe in the rapture. And I'm like, that's what I thought. And so I just, yeah, he started going on about this and I was like, okay, first of all, you're wrong. Second of all, don't say that right now. But yeah, what do you guys call like that?
Well, because like
I'm pretty sure we don't call it that.
yeah, because like we believe in our rapture, but
Yeah.
we don't call it the rapture. We just call it the second coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't believe it's gonna be like this giant wave of just light and just you get ascended to heaven or something.
He was like, yeah, so God's gonna come back, but someone's gonna impersonate as him, and people are gonna fall and for his trickery, and he's gonna cause chaos. And then when God actually comes back, like no one's gonna believe in him, and blah 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 X, Y, and Z, and you're gonna get oh my God, I don't know if this was this, but I vaguely remember someone being like, you know how like it kind of looks like you've been sewn up? It was like you're gonna get unsewn up from like each little intricate thing. Like all of these were just like you start coming apart, and I'm like, if I were like 6 years old, I don't think I'd ever want to come back again. But, yeah.
That's freaky.
I know, and I'm like, no, this is not what we believe in. What are you saying right now, you crazy man?
God.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Insane.
I know. I was like, yeah, no, I'm pretty, yeah, but we don't believe in that. Okay.
I guess one question I would have is like, what is y'all's history with like pastors or religious leaders, and has that led to any religious trauma? I guess.
So obviously the Catholic Church has a bad reputation with priests and stuff. Personally, I don't think that I've ever dealt with anything like that where like they got a little too comfortable. But yeah, we do have a bad rep for that, and it sucks. But yeah.
Okay, maybe
Yeah.
possible revision to the question. What like experiences have you had with religious leaders or pastors or anything like that, either positive or negative?
Ooh.
Yeah, because like I personally think like most of the pastors that I've seen, especially with like the more recent church that I've been with, the one that I'm still like following, the pastors are actually really good.
Yeah.
I actually remember, and this might be getting kind of dark and whatnot, but the pastor that was serving when we first joined that church, he had cancer, and I forget exactly what kind. I think it was like lung or something, like some sort of organ in there.
Yeah.
And he went through chemotherapy back when it was still kind of like experimental. And like he actually got cured, and he was cured for like a year or so, but then it came back and it ended up killing him. He ended up dying, and I remember that was one of like the worst times I've ever cried. Like
Yeah.
I've cried to a lot of things. That sent me over the moon, because he was an amazing man.
Yeah.
And he taught me a lot of things, both like within church and religion and whatnot, but also just as like a regular person.
Yeah.
Because he would always have his little guitar, and like he would be taking us on like trips, like church trips and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he was always just a super happy guy. You never really saw him without a smile or anything.
Oh.
So he was always just trying to spread messages of like be kind and love others as you would have them love you or whatnot.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are definitely religious leaders out there like him who can spread a positive message,
Yeah.
especially to like kids.
Yeah.
Because he was amazing with children. Like he was amazing with like youth my age when they're like 5 years old. Because he led me through my confirmation process. He was the pastor, and he taught me the second year that I did it. So, but I mean, the way he spread the message, yes, he taught like the Bible and like made us learn about it and whatnot. But he also had like positive messages that I think are just universally acceptable. And if that was to be taught in a church rather than just like, you should fear God. God is this all-powerful, almighty.
Yeah.
Instead, it's just like God is loving and he wants everybody to be built in his eyes and the way he wants to be seen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my, at least that's my number one big like religious leader kind of connection.
Besides that one that I just talked about, they've all been really positive. We've always been very like close. Like, if we ever have like family gatherings, we always invite our pastor, and they're always there. And so, yeah, I've always had really good experiences with them. They're very the same way. They're like very, like, they're not as like close-minded as other people, and it's always like very like from like it's always coming from the heart, and they're always giving you like advice, but it's not like the what is it called, like the I don't know, but I always enjoyed them. They were very nice. We always had them over, and yeah, all good things on my end.
Yeah, I believe that too. Well, whenever I went to the church Nazarene, my uncle was the pastor, and he was because he passed away like a year ago. And so, and it's always been somebody. When I went to the church Nazarene, it was a very close, tight knit kind of thing going on. Because you know, it was just like families, and so we all like kind of connected, and it was really small, and always the same people always came. It was never really anybody new unless it was like Easter or Christmas or something like that. So it was very close knit until I got to the non-denominational church, and those churches are huge. Like so many people go to them, so it's kind of hard to like learn about who your pastor actually is on the more personal side rather than it is like just being pastor. The only people that were like super influential to me and why I continued going was my youth pastors, which during middle school all the way to high school, like midway through high school at least, until COVID hit, I was very like adamant about going to church. And my brother would go without my parents, like you know, we would go to like all the youth stuff because we loved going there, and because we loved people that taught. It was this woman, her name is Hillary, and this guy, his name is Dylan. They're now married. Like I know them on a personal level. Like me and my brother went to their wedding, and like all this stuff. And they again, like what Ray was saying about his pastor, like you know, they teach how you would expect somebody to teach God about, and not like, involving all the awful, like scary aspects about it that shouldn't be like as influential as the other things should be. And they're the most kindest people. I went on like a mission trip with them to Los Angeles one time. I forgot of that. Hello. Wait, I did go on a mission trip to Los Angeles. We were working at the LA Dream Center, which is like the Dream Center is like a national thing, and there's one in Lubbock, but they help out like homeless people, and in Los Angeles there are blocks of homeless people. But like, I went on a mission trip with them. Like Hillary owns this, or not owns, but like started up this nonprofit organization called One Voice Home. They like helps women like out of sex trafficking, and so she always contacts me to like help volunteer there, to like help her do stuff there, and like all this kind of stuff. So like very close with them, and like they even came to see me in Newsies, and they,
Damn.
all this kind of stuff. So
Oh,
like I had
yeah.
a really good relationship with them.
Yeah.
So that is like a positive that came out of
Yeah.
being religious and stuff. Is I got to meet some actually cool people,
Yeah.
that are older, that can be that good influence towards me. So
Nice.
yeah.
Ooh, did you guys do confessionals? Like where it was just you and the priest and there was a thing? No, did you? Really? Were you did y'all not have to?
Well, no, we didn't have to. There was a thing where it's like you could go up and like say your testimony, like basically, which it, do y'all know what that is?
Is it like
Like a testimony is basically just like
saying all your sins?
kind of,
Oh, okay.
kind of
Like during a service?
it would sometimes be during a service, but it would sometimes be like at like whenever you would go to like a youth group, or like sometimes you'd go to camps and that would happen, like all that stuff. But testimony is basically just like your life story and how God helped you.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and
That's
like how
sweet.
like you found God, like what led you to find God, and like all this kind of stuff. And then you're like the rest of your life now that you're living with God, and how that helped you. Yeah, so like sometimes like okay, so like when I would go to the non-denominational church before services, they would play like videos about things, and so some of the videos would be like people's like saying their testimonies, and you were able to like listen to it, and they would be like hella deep. Like one of them would be like, oh yeah, I went to prison, blah blah blah, and when I was in prison, like I found God, and now I'm out, and now I'm here going to church, and like everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be like stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's kind of like what we would do.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have
was
to
like a
like,
one-on-one.
it wasn't like a one-on-one thing. It wouldn't have to be that.
No, we have to, like, especially if we want to, like, you have to like confess your sins, like be as pure as you can to take the body of Christ. And so like obviously, yeah, you had to like go one-on-one, and I think they're held like every week, but yeah, I was just like, you can't take the body of Christ without getting rid of your sins. So
do you mind me asking, like, did you ever have to do it? Like,
yeah, I still like, it's something that you have to keep after you do your first communion. Like at first I thought that like any little thing that I did, I had to go and confess before I could take it, but like now it's like it like racks up, and once you think that you're like, the way I just get it's like, if I'm too unholy, too dirty, then I would go and then confess it, and then I'd be like clean or whatever. But it's like at first you're not allowed to say like what you confess to, like what your sins are, or like what you said to the priest. But like this is when I was young, so I don't mind saying them. But like I was young, and the worst thing I did was like talk back to my parents, or like I said a slur at school. Not a slur, sorry, a cuss word.
You said a slur!
oh my god! I don't even like 5 years old. You were like.
No, I would like that. It was like I would talk back to my parents, or I would say a little fib every now and then. Or like in middle school is when I started to cuss. So I was like, oh, I cussed at school. I said fuck today, and then obviously when you grow up, you get tempted, and so that's But you had to. I just remember going, and then sometimes like I was like, this is too much. I can't say it. But then afterwards, it like. He's like, you're absolved of your sins, and then the guilt would come in, and I'm like, but then I'm like, if God knows already, so why do I?
Right, I have to say it to you.
Because He was with me when this happened, which doesn't make it any better. But I'm like, it was it was just me trying to find a way to comfort myself, because I couldn't like build up the courage to tell this man that I don't know that I did this thing.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
that's really scary.
Yeah, not that they know me or anything, but like the ones that like we became friends with, they knew me, so I was like, I don't want to tell you this stuff.
I don't want to tell you like my life.
Yeah, because I'm like, you're gonna look at me differently. And so like, yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So you never had to do that?
No, well, because the other interesting thing too is like for me, the communion, like the taking of the body and the blood, is the absolving of sins. Yeah. So we didn't have to like come in pure and then take it.
Yeah.
Because like you could come in as like filthy and sinful as you want.
Yeah.
And then once you take it, that's like the reset.
Oh yeah, no, ours. Yeah, no.
See, our reset was basically you got baptized. That is your reset, and
you're good for life.
You have to like live on like
Dang, that's crazy.
So okay, now it's all making
Yeah,
sense. Because I was like, damn, okay, my denomination doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, yeah, it would be baptism
Is
the
that like
thing,
yeah,
the
the
reset?
thing that resets
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
No, ours is and like you have to do it every so often, obviously, because you know you're taking the body of Christ, you have to
Yeah.
be pure and whatever. But that's crazy. I didn't know that
Yeah.
that was like y'all's
But
like.
like we never had to do
reset.
that. I mean, you could obviously go to a pastor like one-on-one if you ever needed to
Yeah.
like, talk about something.
Yeah.
But it was never like a confessional sort of thing.
Mm.
So, and I think part of that too is because like I think Martin Luther didn't like the idea of confessionals either.
Yeah.
Because part of confessionals, especially back then when the 95 Theses were written, was like you could also pay to have your sins forgiven.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Well, that was like one of the major reasons why Martin Luther wrote it is because like the church was very corrupt
Yeah.
in the sense that like they could say like if you paid the current equivalent of like $100,000 to us right now,
Mhm.
you'll be good forever and you can go to heaven once you die.
Scams!
Yeah, and it was a whole and
Is
Martin Luther was like, no, fuck that, that's a scam. Here's
Yeah.
95 reasons why.
Yeah.
Bam, put it on your doorstep.
Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, we never had to do confessions.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I love learning about other religions, which is
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that like learning about other religions, but just learning about other people's like spirituality is
Yeah.
also something that like is frowned upon.
Yeah.
Like I bought an Aquarius book once and I was shunned from my family. They were like, "That's against that religion." I was like, "It is? Okay, my bad."
I know
But-
that literally plays into why I believe in like so many things because I have an interest in all this stuff.
Yes, because it's so
like,
interesting to
it's,
learn.
It's so interesting,
Yes.
and like I'm like, if you believe that's real, I mean, I'm not gonna doubt and say that it can't
Exactly.
be.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and so that kind of like plays into why,
Yeah.
like the whole idea of reincarnation.
Yeah.
Back as something,
Yeah,
or like having a past life and doing all that stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
that could be real.
I know.
Like, what
It's
is
it's just
Yeah,
interesting to learn
it's
about, and
interesting,
like
yeah.
I love learning about other things.
Right.
So that's I was like, I love learning about other people's religion.
Yeah.
And I mean, on top of that too, because like certain religions could like trump each other and be like, reincarnation isn't real. What
Yeah,
are you
exactly.
nuts? There's no way you can come back as like an
Yeah.
animal or something. But like, dude, the Bible literally talks about like some of the gnarliest things ever.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like, for example, freaking Adam and Eve, the devil was a snake.
yeah,
Like,
Well, a serpent with like legs and
yeah,
stuff.
I know.
Like that.
And then like God came down and was like, nah.
yeah,
Boom, and turned it into a snake, and it's
Yeah.
like lame now.
yeah.
But also like there's like y'all know the story of the Ark of the Covenant, the one with like I forget exactly who it was. I think it was like priests and stuff, and they were saying something about I forget exactly the situation, but God like put flames over their head, just like little floating flames. Almost
I
like the
think
Sims
I
like
think I heard about
Sims
that.
like
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 a
the
little
Sims
Sims
diamond, but
thing?
instead of a diamond, it's like a flame, and they would like all freak out. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And the craziest part too is like Lutherans. One of the pastors at my new church, his main thing, especially like during sermons, is talking about how accurate the Bible is historically, because he's like every single date and like process or like event that happened in the Bible makes sense historically.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything, I think he said it's like a 98% accuracy to
Yeah.
like actual history.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I get that, and I get that there are certain things within the Bible that definitely could have happened. Like
Yeah.
I know there was a Jesus Christ, King of the Jews, who claimed himself King of the
Yeah.
Jews, who
Yeah,
got
probably walking
crucified.
around somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like,
He's
there's
white.
no way that like some guys had like flames above their head.
Yeah.
And there's all like the story of Noah's Ark is bizarre.
Yeah. That.
No, I remember being small and I was like, why the fuck you had to bring flies? Where are the unicorns?
Exactly. I'm like, why do you have to bring this? Like,
Yeah.
you didn't have to.
But like
Doesn't have
that's
to be every
I know,
animal.
literally. It's like yeah.
So-
That story is crazy.
Anyways, guys,
Yeah.
we're kind of coming to a close, so I guess a good way to end, because trauma can shape us, but also positive stuff can shape us. I guess a good finishing question would be how do you think your religious experiences and the stuff that we talked about is going to shape your life from now on? How do you think
You won't
it's
go
going to
first?
affect you?
Sure, I'll go first. Definitely because I'm not super into believing into one thing as of right now. I kind of believe in everything and doesn't really matter. So I feel like I'm pretty satisfied in that area. So as I get older, I think that's gonna continue. But if I were to ever start a family or anything, in that kind of aspect, I would probably kind of let my kids choose for themselves. I would throw in hey, this is here, this is what that is, this is another thing, this is what this is. You can choose what you want. I'm not gonna completely instill it in you because like we've talked about, we have those guilts and fears in the backs of our head that are gonna stay and that kind of affected us in a way, and I don't want them to have that. And I feel again, like I said, I feel once they're older and they're able to understand it better, I feel that's a better opportunity to bring those kinds of things up. So that way they can also decide for themselves as well. So
Cool.
Nice.
I am still what is it? A practicing Catholic. I still, go to church and stuff. So I don't see that changing in the foreseeable future. It's just something that it brings me comfort in a way. And also now that I'm older, I know I take away what I need to take away, if that makes sense.
You can pick the right side.
Exactly, where I'm okay, that's wrong, but also you said this and I completely agree, but also I don't completely agree with this. And so that's something, which is funny because growing up, I feel like I've mentioned this in another podcast where I was I need to find a person who is also Catholic because I can't blah blah blah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and so it's I need to find something. Now I'm you know what? It doesn't, we don't have to be the same religion, it's fine. You believe what you want, I believe what I want. And with kids, it's something that I thought about where it was do I want them to be raised Catholic or am I gonna blah blah blah? And it's something that I haven't decided on just because I love the idea of having them getting baptized and during their first communion and their confirmation. There's just certain things in between those things that I'm I don't know if I want them to experience that.
Right.
So I guess it'll just depend on the classes and how they're being taught, because I just think that's something that I was gonna mention earlier is I think when they're little, I think we should only be focusing on the good aspects of God, and then as you grow up, you can learn about all the other things, because
how you should fear him.
Exactly. Yeah. And because no one's perfect, and that's something that even God is, as they mentioned, is also not all perfect. But I think I'm still gonna be Catholic, and
Yeah, we love it.
thank you. And
I guess I'm kind of just in the same boat as you. I think I'm still gonna be a practicing Lutheran from now on. Gosh, I'm sorry. You brought up the whole thing with the kids, and it just made me think of the protests that we did.
Oh my gosh.
And see, that's what I'm saying. The influence of Christianity in a negative way can affect can affect children.
It was a school day. You pulled them out of school to come to this.
Go.
I just think there's certain things. They were a kid. You cannot be doing this.
And they don't even know they don't even seem to understand the.
The full extent of what they're doing, what they're protesting.
And they don't understand. They
exactly.
Don't know it.
That's something if I do end up raising my kids Catholic, that's something that I will be no, I don't want to stand up. Or I won't be as closed-minded as it normally is. I'm yeah, but you can be gay if you want to. You can still practice.
You want to drink, that's
fine. Girl, be But that's crazy. I forgot about that.
And especially because one of the big things I think just about Christianity in general is loving people and trying to bring people into the faith.
Exactly.
But you are teaching your kids to drive certain people away.
Yeah.
And
that's
hating
exactly
them.
what
I'm
they were doing. thing.
are such a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Like that's not what
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
about.
You know.
If like you're truly trying to follow the ideologies of Christianity, instead of saying drag is hate and like trying to chant it back at us, you should be like coming up to us and just asking us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, maybe you'll get somebody, maybe you won't. And
Yeah.
maybe the people who were protesting, maybe we could get people to see our ways and maybe we won't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like we fully knew that going in.
Yeah.
But it was just like, it was just so bizarre to me. And
No, that day they showed up, I was like,
I remember talking to so many people and they were just like, we are so upset. Okay, there's music playing in the back. I'll try and wrap up. What was the question? Oh yeah, like how is religion gonna affect me
Yeah.
now? I think I'm still gonna be a practicing Lutheran, but I mean, I'm also gonna be the kind of person to respect like whatever my partner thinks.
exactly.
If I ever have kids, I think I'll obviously be like, this is what I think, and I also want to like baptize them.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I feel like there are certain aspects of like just Christianity or like religion as a whole, like things like baptism that everybody should get.
Yeah.
Because like regardless of how you view God or how you view the Bible or how you
Uh-huh.
view religion or other people,
Yeah.
things like getting baptized are a kind of universal thing.
Yeah.
Because Christianity is like the Holy Spirit entering within you.
Holy Spirit.
So
Sorry.
yeah, no worries. Yeah. But I think another thing that I want to do as well is kind of explore like the self-examination side of religion.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing about, oh my gosh, how did I not bring this up? So there's this video that I watched a long time ago. I forget when I first found it, but I would like watch it every now and again. I watched it a couple days ago just to study up for this. It's by this YouTuber named Reformed Zoomer, and it's, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's like explaining every denomination of Christianity in 10 minutes.
Yo, that's
And it's
sick.
like very brief but very
Can you add a link
informative.
to that on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Link
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Link it.
Yeah, link in the description to that video. It's very informative.
Actually,
It's
what's
kind of
that?
funny.
Me too.
But like, you know, it would talk about certain religions like, or denominations like Baptists, where like they obviously like believe a lot of the Bible and study the Bible and whatnot. But there's also a lot of like self-exploration about what religion is and what God means to you and whatnot. But that's not really in Lutheran faith. So I would kind of.
Are you having rehearsal?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Anyways.
But go ahead.
Yeah, but as I was saying, I would kind of like to explore like the self-examination
Yeah.
side of things,
I agree with that.
which I kind of started to do a little bit in high school, but then just stopped
Yeah.
because I went to a Baptist church for like a couple of things, just because my friends invited me because they did cool events.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing. But
Yeah.
other than that, just pretty much staying how I've been.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way.
Me too.
Well, anyways.
Alright.
Ex-wives playing in
yeah.
the background is our cue to get
Yeah.
out of here.
We thank y'all for watching. Also, this is the last episode of the
This
semester.
year,
yeah.
yeah.
Because we're going on summer break.
Yeah, until we come back from break. So we will see y'all next semester.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
To all of our day ones who watched every single episode,
We love
thank
Signa.
you. We love you.
Yeah.
Keep dipping.
Yeah. Our dippers, we love you all. We hope you
Yeah.
keep watching. And yeah, just stay tuned until next time then.
See you in August or September.
Yeah. Follow us on social media. We
Yeah.
might do fun stuff. Who knows?
I'll link everybody's
Yeah.
ads in the description if you
Yeah.
want to follow our personal Instagrams
Yeah.
and stuff. So
We hope you enjoyed
thank you
and
so much.
we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Love ya.
Bye, dippers.
goodbye, dippers.